Sí se puede ver mi pantalla bien. ¿Me dejan un puntito en el chat nuevamente para la interacción? Sí, muchas gracias, Caro, por darme manitos arriba.
Acá.
Entonces, sí, buenazo. Listo, arrancamos. Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí el día de hoy. Tenemos una sesión muy divertida, de mucho aprendizaje, eh, y en verdad estamos muy emocionados de poder acompañarlos hoy. Yo soy Jessica Medina, me voy a presentar un poquito más dentro de poco, y hoy día vamos a estar hablando de The Future of Making Things. Nos está acompañando Tatjana Dzambazova. Ella es de IDEO, es la Executive Director en IDEO de San Francisco, se está conectando desde allá. Estamos súper contentos de tenerte aquí de vuelta. Welcome back, Tanya. She's been working with us in the different rutas, así que ella ha estado participando también como juez, como Inspiration Shop dentro de las rutas, y hoy va a estar aquí para hablar sobre el futuro del diseño y la innovación. ¿Ok? Entonces, les cuento, yo soy Jessica Medina, soy el Operations Lead de Colectivo 23. Un fun fact mío es que amo tejer y bordar en un mundo en donde la tecnología avanza muy rápido, en donde realmente el AI como que nos persigue y realmente estamos ahí avanzando y aprendiendo cosas nuevas. En verdad me encanta tomarme un tiempito para parar y poder hacer cosas de manera mucho más manual, de apreciar esos procesos de creación, ¿no? Que me gustan muchísimo. Llevo 4 años en colectivo y en verdad me encanta estar aquí compartiendo con ustedes el día de hoy. Quiero que se preparen para esta sesión. Hay dos claves muy importantes para disfrutarlo. Así como les dije al inicio, por favor, enciendan cámaras, queremos verlos, queremos conocerlos un poquito más, dejar de pensar de que este espacio es solamente virtual, sino como que realmente ver esas sonrisas, esas caras de asombro, esos momentos ajá, de cuando vayan descubriendo cosas nuevas. Y lo otro es que por favor estén muy, muy, muy activos en el chat. Cualquier duda, pregunta, comentario, reflexión, por favor vayan dejándola en el chat porque los vamos a estar leyendo. También vamos a tener un espacio luego de preguntas y respuestas, entonces eso también nos va a ayudar muchísimo y vamos a estar monitoreando este espacio. Quiero contarles que nosotros como colectivo estamos comprometidos en entrenarte para que puedas alcanzar tu mejor versión profesional. Esta es una foto de la primera graduación presencial que tuvimos en el Comunal de Polanco, en la Ciudad de México, en abril del año pasado, en donde pudimos estar con muchísimos talentos y en verdad estamos muy ilusionados de poder acercarlos a su mejor versión profesional. En cifras, colectivo a la fecha hemos impactado más de 30.000 talentos, perdón. Tenemos una tasa de término del 95% de los programas y en verdad estamos muy orgullosos de esto porque esto quiere decir de que las personas que se suman a colectivo terminan su programa, se gradúan y están más cerca de alcanzar sus metas profesionales. Y tenemos alrededor de más de 300 practitioners. Estas son las personas que dictan las clases y un practitioner no es un profesor tradicional, es una persona que trabaja en el día a día, que está en la cancha, que vive y soluciona los problemas reales y puede traer muchísimo contexto a las clases. Y en total somos alrededor de 7 países latinoamericanos que nos reunimos todos los días en las sesiones virtuales para poder compartir conocimiento. Quiero contarles un poquito más sobre los practitioners, tal cual como les venía mencionando. Nosotros buscamos entrenarte junto a líderes globales. Aquí les traigo una pequeña muestra de algunos talentos que nos acompañan y que dictan dentro de las rutas que tenemos en colectivo. Ana Paula Miembro, que está en Mastercard, Giancarlo Martínez de InBev, Jairo José Niño en Johnson Johnson, Aurora Salgado del BBVA, Gerardo Guerrero en Visa y María Paula Rivarola que está en Uber. Estos son personas que en verdad son unos capos, son expertos en su área y que traen, como les digo, los dolores, la problemática, la innovación que se va viviendo dentro de sus tareas del día a día y dentro de sus chambas en el día a día. Así que nos pueden traer muchísimo contexto para que ustedes vayan aprendiendo en tiempo real. Nosotros en colectivo tenemos, o sea, distintos talentos, tanto como pasajeros y pasajeras. Todos los estudiantes nosotros les llamamos pasajeros y pasajeras. Y también tenemos muchos talentos que vienen de diversos lugares de Latinoamérica, de empresas reconocidas como LATAM, Roche, Didi, Justo, Kavak, el BBVA. Entonces, inclusive dentro de las sesiones, ustedes pueden conocer a distintas personas con las que van a poder compartir anécdotas, van a poder hacer networking, van a poder conversar acerca de cómo ir mejorando algunos temas específicos y van a poder generar lazos que les van a durar muchísimo tiempo. Así que esto es un poquito la muestra de a quienes podrían estar conociendo ustedes cuando se animen a subirse a una de las rutas. Y para contarles un poco acerca de Colectivo, nosotros tenemos 3 escuelas en nuestros programas especializados que son 100% en vivo y sin tarea, por eso es all in class. Tenemos la Escuela de Innovación y Diseño, en donde tenemos la ruta de Digital Product Design junto con IDEO, la ruta de Service Design también junto con IDEO, y tenemos la ruta de UX UI y la de UX Estratégico. En la Escuela de Data y Negocios tenemos la ruta de Growth Marketing, la de Product Management, Data Analytics for Business, Content Strategy y Finanzas para no financieros. En la de Tecnología tenemos la ruta de AI Tools y Tech Minds, ¿ok? Pero el día de hoy vamos a estar hablando mucho más a detalle sobre la Escuela de Innovación y Diseño, ya que tenemos a Tania con nosotros y ella nos viene acompañando desde la parte de IDEO. Ahora, nosotros, Colectivo, somos la única escuela de Latinoamérica que tiene una alianza con IDEO. IDEO es la consultora de innovación global de grandes proyectos, como por ejemplo el primer mouse de Apple, es una de las historias y de los casos más conocidos que tiene. Y como verán, pueden recibir feedback directo en vivo en las sesiones junto a distintos talentos de IDEO que nos acompañan, tanto como jueces como inspo shots dentro de las sesiones. Así que en verdad estamos muy orgullosos y muy agradecidos también de tener a alguien como Tania el día de hoy en la sesión. Ahora, Tania en verdad es muy buena en español también, pero el día de hoy va a estar dando la sesión en inglés, así que contamos con traducción en vivo. Para esto, lo que necesitamos es que vayan a la parte inferior, ahí van a encontrar un icono de globito de mundo, en donde van a poder escoger si es que quieren escuchar la charla en español o en inglés, ¿ok? Entonces, si es que la quieren escuchar en español, seleccionan español y van a escuchar a nuestra traductora en vivo, Elena, que está con nosotros aquí, y si no, se pueden quedar en la sesión y ahí lo van a escuchar en inglés, ¿ok? Entonces, por favor, vamos cambiando los settings para poder asegurarnos de que todos puedan ya ir viendo el tema de la traducción y podamos escuchar esta charla de la mejor manera. Y ahora le voy a dar el pase a Tatjana. Ella nuevamente, como les comenté, es Executive Director en IDEO de San Francisco y nos va a contar un poquito más acerca de su trayectoria. Entonces voy a dejar de compartir mi pantalla para darte la bienvenida nuevamente, Tatjana, y en verdad feliz de tenerte nuevamente con nosotros aquí en Colectivo.
Muchas gracias, Jessica. Well, hi, everybody. I can't believe how many people came. Oh, my God. I hope that you will not be disappointed. My name is Tanya. I'm from IDEO. So I was a mentor or judge in some of the rutas, and Jessica and the team asked me to maybe give a little inspirational session by sharing my path, both as a technologist and designer. So as you can see, I have done different things in life. I was for 12 years an architect. Then I became technologist and technology whisperer for 22 years. And the last 3 years, I have worked in innovation design consultancy, which is IDEO. So for today, I thought that I will split the presentation in 2 parts. One would be, I would like to tell you a little bit about my path and my choices and the projects or products that I have worked when I worked in creative technology. So I'm not going to talk about the future. I'm going to talk about the past, but I hope you will understand that the only reason I do that is that on one hand, many of the products that I worked on are still more than relevant today. And then the other thing is through the work that I did, I want to share some tips that you will see here that will help you build the future. The second part will be about my time in IDEO, and more specifically, I want to share the things that I learned at IDEO and that inspired me most about the way IDEO approaches designing things. And then some final super quick thoughts and a question and answer session. Okay, so let's get started. Something about me. I was born in Yugoslavia. I don't know if anybody knows that country. It doesn't exist anymore. It's now a 2 million people country, tiny little country called Northern Macedonia. And I stayed there for about 22 years. I studied architecture. And then my path started moving me to Vienna, where I stayed for 11 years working as an architect. And then I went to London from private reasons, and I couldn't find a job. I was not the Royal Institute of British Architects, so I could not find a job as an architect. So that was a drag, and it was really annoying. I had 12 years of experience. I spoke 7 languages, and I'm thinking, okay, I have to reframe the problem. I'm not getting a job, so what other places can my skills being an architect and speaking languages help me to find my place? And so I opened my mind, and I found an ad for a job, and I applied. And sure enough, I got the job, and it was in a technology company called Autodesk, with which then I moved from London to Paris to Boston, and then San Francisco. So I live in San Francisco now for 18 years, and I will tell you a little bit more about it. But the first tip already now that I want to share with you is whenever you hit an obstacle, reframe it and try to look at it as an opportunity. What else can be done? And the other one, what I learned at that time was there are so many other things that I could do that I didn't even know if I did not give myself a chance to do that. Okay, so I got the job at Autodesk. If you don't know who Autodesk is, it's a very famous global design technology company that made AutoCAD. The whole world knows Autodesk from AutoCAD, but today, basically, Autodesk makes products for architects and engineers and filmmakers, etc. I stayed in Autodesk for about 18 years, and I worked as a product manager for 10 software products for creatives. But I also did strategy, I did UX, I did reseller channel development, I did education, PR, etc. But really my main job was always being a product manager. So before I start showing you some of the products, I want to say 2 things. One is, there are 2 ways in my mind to make products. One is, you know, you're part of an industry, you know that there is a problem, and you have an idea to solve it, and you work on that. The other one is you look at what's going on with technology, what's going on with changes in the world, and you look at them as an opportunity to solve old problems in a new way, or to even create something that people never thought they can do. And I spent my career more on creating products inspired by technology or riding some new technology waves. So as I go through the products, I will always mark which technology trend we decided to ride or enable the product that we were doing. So I'll start with the last job I had in Autodesk. It's 2018. And I don't know if you remember what you were doing in 2018, but myself, so I and a very small team, we were wondering what the heck is AI and how will it change the way we design the world around us? So at that time, it's not like now, nobody was talking about AI. Very few people were talking about it. The researchers in universities, etc., were deep into it, but outside of the research labs, it was very little AI known, what it can do or how does it look like. So when you don't know how the future would look like, when you don't know what the technology will do, you imagine it. And that's exactly what we did. So we created the AI lab. And that's one of the first things we did there was try to imagine how will, in the future, designers be able to design something, let's say a chair, with the help of AI. I will run now a video that is very long. I'll run only a short portion of it so you can see. Remember, this is 2018.
Okay, Autodesk, I want to design a chair.
Welcome back, Dennis. Here are some popular chairs. Scroll through them and select some examples to give me an idea of the type of chair you would like.
Okay, I'm making some selections now. Here are my picks.
All right, Here are the chairs you selected.
Okay, combine all possible pairs between these 6.
Alright. There are 15 possible pairs. I am morphing the form between all pairs, generating a large range of combinations. I am also adapting the dimensional parameters of each of the 6 selected leg styles to fit each design solution. Here are 5 design possibilities between each of the 15 pairs. There are a total of 75 possible designs. We can make further tweaks to any design if needed.
Okay, great. That's a lot of options. Let's go back to my original selections and I'll just direct you step by step.
Okay. Here are your original selections.
Okay, combine these 2.
Alright, here are 11 options between the pair you selected. There are 2 repeated sets to show both original leg styles. Scroll through them and select one to make further design changes.
This one looks good.
Alright, here it is.
Show me the other leg options with this chair.
Here are the 6 original leg styles adapted to this design. Select any style you would like to use.
Okay, switch to this one.
Okay.
Make it wider?
Okay.
Not that much. Split the difference.
Reducing width 50%.
Make it work for a really tall person.
Alright.
Lower the top of the back to this red line I'm drawing.
Okay. Here you go.
Okay, make it into a lounge chair.
Alright, matching to the parameters of a known lounge chair with high user ratings for comfort.
Show me a comparison of the 2.
Here you go.
Okay, that's a little too loungy. Make it 25% less loungy.
Okay. Done.
Okay, make it a white plastic material.
Okay.
Add a wave morph matching this circle I'm drawing. Cool. Adjust it to match this. Remove the wave inside this circle.
Okay. Here you go.
Okay, make the legs red.
Okay.
Make the main body light gray.
Okay.
Make the surface furry like this image I'm uploading.
Here you go.
Okay, so I'm not going to run the entire video. You get the idea. So we kind of imagined how will the future look like. And we made this as a provocation. We wanted to see how designers feel when a machine is designing instead of them, and what are the things they'll say, oh my God, no, that's my job. I don't want computer to do that, versus, oh, interesting. That will help me, you know. So it was fun to just research and observe. And only now, 8 years after, almost 8 years after, we're seeing the beginning of this. It's not yet there. There are no physics. Nobody understands if the chair will stand or fall, etc. But it was a fun thing to do. And I encourage you all to do that. So let's go to the beginning of me going to Autodesk. When I went there because I was an architect, and the idea for me was to work on architectural software. At that time, AutoCAD was the world standard for architecture, and everybody was using it. And AutoCAD was invented in 1981, and I joined Autodesk in 2000, so it's almost 20 years since then. So technology has improved, and there was already a time where, I mean, in this period around the 2000s, there were computer programmers who were starting to think, how might they make coding more efficient and think about data structures? And when they thought about AutoCAD, which was literally designing lines and arcs and text to describe a project, they were thinking, how about translating that into objects, parametric objects that represent walls and windows and doors, so it's easier to actually do. And that's exactly what happened. So around 2000, Revit was born, or building information modeling, a very new approach of how you build buildings. Instead of drawing lines, you actually work with digital objects. And this product was actually designed, initially made by a startup that Autodesk soon after acquired. And I was lucky to be the product manager for the next 3 years, translating this really nice prototype and idea into a world standard. So as a product manager, I was not only working on, defining the vision of the tool and creating the product requirement documents and market requirement documents and working with architects to test, and then working with reseller channels to train them to sell the product, but also work on internationalization, be it make it with libraries for Brazil or for Italy or for China, etc. It was a lot of work. My life was crazy. I was 20 days a month traveling Shanghai, South Africa, Moscow, working with governments to make it a standard, etc. It was a huge ride. And we needed also to write the first books on Revit to explain to architects why building information modeling is so much better way to work than with AutoCAD. So one thing that I learned from this period is big changes are a lot of work, but it's so worth it doing it because you might just change an entire industry. The next product was riding on another wave. In 2012, we started to talk more and more about computer vision. Sensors on our phones, the camera, started to be as good as a camera that used to cost $1,000, $2,000. Then NVIDIA started producing the GeForce, the really good chips for computing. And then 3D printing started to be in vogue, or the first 3D printers started to show up. So we thought, okay, with these three things, with sensors becoming ubiquitous and not just cameras, but it is also about laser scanners. So these laser scanners were $500,000. All of a sudden, they became cheaper. Then drones started to become a viable solution. On the drones, you could put a little laser scanner or a camera. And then there were structured light scanners and all these different ways to digitize the world around us. So we thought, what if we make a software that can take those digital inputs? We focused on photos, but then also made for laser and for combination of both. Take photos of an object, of a space, and then convert that those photos into a high definition 3D model that you can then take and print back into the reality, be it in a different material or different scale. And out of that first idea to converge these technology trends, we created a product called, at the beginning, it was called Memento. So basically, you take photos of an object or of a space, of a building, upload it in the software makes a 3D model. It helps you super easy, quickly clean it up and prepare it for 3D printing. You didn't need to know anything about anything, but it was producing high resolution 3D digital models that could then be printed and recreated in the physical world. This was a big thing. People loved it. We had fanatical users, and we started a trend of this reality capture and computer vision that up to date is very strong. And the use cases were many. It was the same technology, but you could use it to create assets for film, or as a scientist to digitize fossils, or for museums to digitize heritage, and so on and so on. When you work on interesting products, you get to meet interesting people. I was very lucky to work with Iris van Herpen, who, for those of you who are interested in fashion, is probably one of the top fashion designers in the world. And she was interested to see how can she maybe use this tool to document the different stages of the garments that she was making, because it was a lot of manual work. We also worked together with Iris and Gwendolyn Christie from the Games of Thrones to digitize the body of Gwendolyn so that it's used in a movie as a digital double. I also worked with a museum in Sweden and a company called Interspectral to digitize a mummy and then create an experience for a museum where you could literally undress the mummy, unwrap it, and see down to each bone how that mummy looks like, as a new way of education. Or if you're lucky like me, you end up in a museum. This is me, 3D printed sculptures and cardboard sculptures. This was part of an exhibit that we did with Factum Arte, where they were showing how you can, with this dome, scan 3D replica and then make it out of chocolate, out of 3D printing or gypsum, whatever. Also worked with Dr. Louise Leakey, the daughter of the famous Richard Leakey, who uncovered the first human remains skulls and animal skulls in Kenya and Africa, to digitize them and educate with them. And then with Hydrus to actually digitize corals underwater and then do that every 6 months and then compare with the software, is the coral growing or shrinking? As you can see, the same technology, very different use. And then 2013, WebGL was invented. It's APIs that allow for 3D modeling on the web. So basically, for the first time, the web could be 3D and you could interact in the web. And the first VR sets that were a little bit better than the previous ones started to show up. So we said, what if you take that concept further? And instead of just ripping the reality, capturing it, we now create the 3D digital model, mix it, and then put it on the web for storytelling, education, and other things. And that's what we did with the Smithsonian. It's the biggest museum collection in the world. They already started digitizing their artifacts, but they wanted a tool that can help the curators tell the story. So this curator digitized this sculpture, but could not see the relief of the story here. And with digital intervention, through this tool that we made, you could actually see and read the story of the Buddha, and then with different tools, the curator, who is not technically savvy, could tell the story about that sculpture. We were lucky to also digitize the Apollo 11 capsule. We did it with laser scanning and photogrammetry, and then we created this gorgeous 3D digital replica of the Apollo that you could literally, in the VR world, go inside and sit. And as you can see from the photo, you cannot see because I covered it, it's a 3D printed replica as well. What was really fun is that one of the 3 astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, still alive, and he came to the Smithsonian and we showed him on the VR set the Apollo so he could sit in his seat and see the interior. He looks grumpy on this photo, but he was not. He was very impressed. And then President Obama was the first ever president to be scanned and has his official presidential sculpture 3D printed in DC. And then in 2015, there was another trend. It was digital fabrication. It was about machines that could read digital files and then be it cut or carve materials. So especially laser cutters, so 3D printers obviously were already here, but laser cutters started to become much cheaper, and laser cutters are very simple. They just basically, like printer, follow a digital file, but they cut or etch. And we thought, this is interesting. Can we make a tool that can leverage this, but to create 3D models out of 2D cut parts? So we made 123D Make. My friend Saul Griffith was a big part of helping us to create that product. What it was doing is basically you could upload any 3D model, either you download it from the web or you made it yourself with photos. You decide which material you have to make it and the software and which direction to slice it, and the software would slice it and number the parts so you know how to assemble it together. It was a lot of fun. We were making big dinosaurs that were keeping our parking spots. We're making some, items like balls and stuff, or making elephants for playgrounds with different techniques of the same software. What was interesting for me is that you could have the same 3D digital file, but depending on different fabrication techniques, the actual physical model could be looking very different. So while I was working on this tool, there were many colleagues in Autodesk who were really criticizing, why are we working on this, excuse my French, shit? We have real customers, why are we spending time on this? Do not let naysayers steer you off your way. If you believe, keep believing in what you do and continue. In 2019, 3D printing was already everywhere, but it was mainly plastics. And there were many industries who could not deal with plastic parts. They needed parts in metal. It was health, be it space, aerospace, etc. So there was a startup, Vela 3D, that decided to make this $2 million machine to create 3D printing in metal, high resolution, but specifically for medical and for aerospace industry. And they developed technology that would not create supports, which is these red things, while printing, because printing always creates supports in order to stand on something, and then you clean up the supports. The whole idea was to print without supports, because cleaning in metal, that would not have made it financially viable. So I joined that startup, and in 1 year, we created 2 software tools. One is called Flow, which was basically the tool to, I'll just speed it up a little bit, that was helping prepare the 3D models, mechanical models for printing, giving insights into where it might fail, etc. And the other product was Assure, which is the product that was following while the printer was printing if everything is fine, predicting what knowing what needs to happen, and if that doesn't happen, proactively adjust the process, because printing in metal is expensive. So as you can see, being an architect, working in creative environments, and then all of a sudden I'm working with mechanical engineers and aerospace engineers, it was not comfortable, but it is great not to stay in your comfort zone, because I learned so much more that I could apply in any area that I was interested. And then 2021, everything was about robotics. The big industrial robots started to become more accessible. AI started to become more clear in terms of capabilities, and also workforce that could deal with AI. So manufacturing started to look at this in terms of how can we do more automation. And there was a startup called Bright Machines that wanted to use robotics and AI to automate the final assembly of electronic products. Believe it or not, phones are still assembled by human beings, which is really crazy. So I joined that startup to make a software that would help people in the factory who actually know everything about assembly, but they don't know anything about programming, to be able, with very simple user interface, actually design the process of assembly. So as you can see, I've been doing a lot of changes in my career, from one industry to another, from one product to another. All I will say is, don't be afraid of change. It makes you stronger. As a part of creating software, I was also doing a lot of talking all around the world. It's a lot of fun, but it is also very rewarding. I'm showing you this slide not to brag, oh, look how nice things people said about me, but to just invite you to see that, if you know something, share, teach, tell others, because you might, just with one talk, you might just change somebody's life. So as you could see, my last job was not very creative. So, you know, robotics and AI, and I started to feel like I'm missing beauty and creativity. So I joined IDEO. And probably many of you know, IDEO is one of the most iconic design and innovation consultancy, known for design thinking. Design thinking today is a little bit everything to everybody, but for us, for IDEO, design thinking is a way to solve problems through creativity, and a way to create more possibilities from which you can make better choices. The team that started IDEO designed the first mouse in the 80s. They said there was this young guy who came, he said, I want a mouse, and I want it for $17. And they were like, what is a mouse? Who is this guy? And why did he call his company like a fruit? Obviously, it was Steve Jobs. We did some really great innovation, inventing the ball and the mouse, etc. So from then on, the rest is history. IDEO has, from industrial design and mechanical design company, transitioned into digital design, strategy design, org design, system design, service design. Basically, today we can say we design just about anything. And working for IDEO is a lot of fun. You might end up working on an elegant and balletic robotic scent diffuser, and then the next month solve a problem by changing those really annoying plastic boxes where if you take a lot of medication, you have to sort your meds, to transform that into a service that sends you monthly your medication with time and date already pre-packed, to maybe designing a more comfortable pap smear, as we did last year for telehealth, or help big corporations really stick to their promises to take care of people and to take care of the planet, or design a mental health app like we did also last year that is now actually already out there. Or we have situations where somebody like Ford, an old incumbent company, comes to us for ideas what the new model should do. And we do such a good research that it turned out that all the things that we found out required that this car is electric, but the Ford wasn't. So we helped them understand that their next vehicle need to be electric if they want to make a vehicle that people would really be able to do all the things that they want to do with it. And this is key. This is one thing about IDEO. The way we approach design and research is allowing us to question the very reasons why customers came to us and find out sometimes that the solution is something else. And I just wanted very quickly to go through some of the principles that make IDEO, or some of the methods we work, so that you can maybe see why good products are possible. The first one is empathy through firsthand experience. Obviously, as a human-centered organization, people are always at core of our work. We always question, what do people want? We do ethnographic research, etc., but we don't ask people what do they want. We don't send surveys. Of course, we do that as well, but we mostly go in their context, in their workplace, in their shops, and work with them and see what are they doing. Because one thing we realized is that if we just ask people, what do they do, or just ask them questions, they say one thing, but they actually do another thing. And this is the case with when we were working with an American drug company on redesigning a pill bottle packaging. The pill bottles in America are really difficult to open. I was like a monkey struggling when I moved to America, and I had no idea that they had some special thing. So this woman had rheumatoid arthritis, and we asked her if she could open her medication bottle. And she said yes. And we were like, how is that possible? It's so difficult even for people who don't have arthritis. Then we asked her to show us. And this is the whole thing. We always say, show, don't tell. When she showed us how she was opening the bottle, this was really what she showed us. So this is why it's very important that you get there where people are in the context for the things that you design, and you observe, because observation means looking closely to get new understanding. And very often when you observe, you notice things, some workarounds like these stickers that indicate a clear need of something that handles understanding of which socket is for what. Another aspect of how we work is when we design something, when we start designing or researching, we usually research with the target group, with the main group. In this case, we were working for Xylis, and we were supposed to redesign their kitchen utensils for everyday people at home, for main consumers. So obviously we were researching with moms and pops who are cooking, but we also researched with extreme users. We researched with kids, and we learned a lot about dexterity and how they grip the handles, but we also researched with professional cooks, where we were looking how they use the tools, but most importantly, a thing that they cared about is how do you wash the tools? And out of that, we developed a really nice collection that could be used by a wide variety of users. Another principle is when you look to create something, don't just look where everybody else is looking. If you're an architect, don't just look what architects are doing, but really start to look at other industries and get this analogous inspiration. So this was a project where we were tasked to redesign the hospital emergency room, and we were starting to think, what other place is there where there is a team that needs to work together in a very short time and the human life is at question? And we figured out the NASCAR pit crew is exactly that. They are doing something within milliseconds. They have to operate as a team. And if they don't do it right, the driver's life is in question. So their efficiency, we observed, was because of something that is called tool redundancy. almost all of them had their own wrench, their own screwdriver, so they were not passing the tools and losing time. Does that mean that in operation room, everybody has to have the expensive tools? Maybe not, but these are some of the things that gave us insights on how can you shave off time. One of the things I love most in the way we work is build prototypes. Always build prototypes from day one, because that, for us, prototypes is really a way to ask a question. We have a colleague who says, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. And whatever we design, we always, from day one, start sketching. Prototype does not have to be something expensive. It can be a sketch. It can be a sticker on a phone with some things. But as you develop with the design further, you can make more and more better prototypes. I love this story. This is a long time ago when we were designing an airplane cabin, and we had a brilliant idea to make the cabin seats as a bunk bed so people can sleep. A simple prototype of putting the chairs, as they happen to be the right size, on top of each other and trying to test that immediately made us realize this is not a great idea. Nobody wants to be stuck in such a small place. Another way, for example, was this, which is also showing the testament of how we work with the users. So we worked with Google, and they really wanted to understand, how will people want to use VR, etc. So what we did was cut out these transparent plastic sheets, went to regular people, asked them to put themselves in some environments, be it in a metro station, be it on the mountain, be it underwater, and draw what do they want to see. So you see, that was also a prototype, even better, because we involved the clients, the future users. And this is my absolute favorite. We were working for Sesame Street, and we were building an app called Monster Moves. And we needed to quickly show our client what we mean, but we did not want to build some digital prototypes. So this is what we do.
Cue music. So this is possible dance moves for Monster Maker. So music starts, and I'm the player, so I come in and I touch the monster, and he gives me a special dance move. I go and touch again, and he does a different one. And it can go for as long as I want. And he has a few signature moves. And when I've had enough and I'm done dancing, I touch the back button. And it pauses and the music stops. Monster Maker.
Cool.
That's all I can. Come on, that's all I can.
Wow.
Get in there, son.
So as you can see, this is just a piece of styrofoam on which we glued a sticker of an iPhone, and that's how we did it. And two more things. One is our teams in IDEO, we have cooks and dancers and musicians and architects and surgeons, etc. That is what makes us strong. Wherever you are, try to surround yourself with people who are not from the same industry, because the different mindsets bring so much value and different ways of looking at the problem. I will finish with something that my colleague Michelle Lee always talks about, and it is about the power of play. And it's really about three things. One is, when we're children and we do something, we invite other children. We are expanding our playground. Then we build to think. We do Legos and Play-Doh. We're not talking about ideas. We always make them. And then when we walk on the street and we see a puddle of water, we don't avoid them like the adults. We actually go and make a splash in the middle of that. Remember these things. Remember the child in you, because that gives you the most creativity you can ever imagine. So, the future. What is the future going to be? Nobody knows. We live in the most dynamic times. We live 30 times faster than our parents. The ground is shifting under us, and we all the time feel like we need to catch a breath. Something is happening nonstop, new and faster and faster. Somebody said, we will all become surfers. We will just wait and the next wave and the next wave. So we don't know what the future will be. And the only way to do this is to be future ready, to be prepared for the future. So I want to leave you with these things. Stay hungry, look around, always observe what's going on. Start doing and experimenting. There is a lot talk about AI now. Don't just watch what other people do. Open the tools, try it yourself. Expand your playfield. Always invite other people from your organization to give their peace of mind when you work on something. I would say also be fearless, be bananas, just do things that people would think you're crazy. And most importantly, learn, learn, learn. Because we live in the most exciting times where with Duolingos and Domestika and MIT Open Course and this and that, there is so much free content to learn from, or so much good schools like Colectivo to learn more from. With that, I will shut up. I probably talked much longer than needed, and we'll let Jessica take over for any questions and answers if I know how to answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya. It's been amazing to get to know all of the different stages of your life, all your career and your achievements. And I think that the last part was amazing. It led me thinking about different things. Always look for ways to understand your user. I think a lot of people here were talking about that. How can we empathize? How can we learn more about the user? So we're gonna go ahead and answer the questions. Tenemos la primera pregunta. What methodologies and which metrics do you use during your empathize process?
Okay, so very big question. Basically, first, I saw also another question, so I will try to answer both. How do you start with empathy, etc.? So usually what happens in consultancy, but it's for everything in life. Companies come because they want to make more money or they want to retain their customers, etc. And so many of them talk, oh, but we could do this. We. They don't talk the language of who is going to use it. How is those people's life looking like? What will be the flow? What do they know? What do they do before that? What do they do after that? This is why we say, don't just do some surveys. Don't ask ChatGPT. You go and you talk with people, or at least do a Zoom call, be human to human, and start talking about, okay, don't even ask them a leading question to what you want to solve, but say, hey, how does your day look like? How does every day look like for you? What's a typical day? And let them talk. Very often in research, if you let the users talk, they will tell you much more than if you ask them 100 questions. And sometimes silence is uncomfortable, but actually, if you just let them talk, you will hear a lot. And that is definitely one of the first things that I learned. Listen more than talking, let them talk, but put yourself in their shoes and understand the context, because not everybody has the same context. What was the second part of the question, Frank?
It was, what are the metrics that you use?
So, it's very difficult to talk about metrics, because how we usually do this is, let's say we start the project. We need to solve some problem. What we do is we start diverging. We open our eyes and hands and arms and everything and try to learn from talking to users, from talking to experts, from looking at analogous, etc. We gather a lot of things and then we start converging. Basically, we then start to look at patterns. What is repeating? So the first kind of metric is, what are the things that are grouping around some main themes? And now that we have that, we go again and open again, diverge again, because now we start to have hunches and we try to learn more. And throughout all this process, we start to do little provocational sketches and concepts to see, are what we smelled, is this the right direction, etc. So the metrics are not such as numbers of users, etc. It is more finding qualitative patterns around the topics that you're researching, which start to guide you slowly into the right direction.
Okay, Thank you very much for that, Tanya. I have another question here. How is AI reshaping the design industry? What skills do you think are key to navigate this change?
Look, there are many smarter people than me to talk about this. I hope I showed you, even from the video of 2018, that it's definitely going to be a different way of working. I'm hoping that it will be more like an assistant. And funny enough, actually that video, I wrote the script for that video after a flight to Germany. And on the flight, I watched a video about a famous industrial designer. And in the video, it was a movie actually about him, showing how he works. And he had his Sherpa, his assistant, and he was sitting, the big guy, the big designer like this, and telling the assistant, cut that, now make that shorter, put this piece of fabric on that. And it was literally how the human, not in a nice way, worked with his assistant that made me think, okay, what if there is an assistant who cannot be hurt and who is all-knowing and can just do for you what you are guiding him to do? There will be a lot of disruption. There will be a lot of empowerment, but I don't think that any technology will ever replace humans. And when you asked about what skills are needed, the main skill needed is curiosity. Look, I just finished an 8-week course at MIT to learn about AI. Of course, we can learn online and you can see what people do. I wanted to understand how does it work in the background? And even if I'm not a coder, it was really interesting to see and to start getting a sense, this is what it is. This is what type of data I need. So all I will say is keep your eyes open. You don't have to become a programmer, especially not now with Claude and ChatGPT, but I would still just say one thing. Even if AI is a much bigger shift and not just like any other tech before, you still need to be solving for human problems. If you just take a technology for technology's sake, and you're building products that are, or solutions that are looking for problems, then you're not going to succeed. So you still have to have a problem that you want to solve, and just a good understanding, what are all the possibilities that this new technology enable us, so that you can apply those possibilities to solve the problem in some new creative way. So if I had the answer about the future of design with AI, I would probably be sitting on an island somewhere now. Nobody knows. And if anybody tells you that they know, they will be lying. But I hope that through the video provocation of 2018, you see that the only way to understand what the future is, just imagine it. Just imagine and understand what the possibilities are.
Thank you, Tanya. I think that's very, very important. And you said it in your presentation. We don't know where the future will, what the future will become. So we might as well just start dreaming and imagining it and creating it.
But it's also important that you prepare for it. You cannot ignore either, because then you will be overridden, right?
That's true.
So, and preparation is always basically by learning stuff. I thought I didn't have time. I wanted to show you my YouTube, my learning channels, all the paid content that I do. It's a little bit too much, but I do not know what to learn first. There's so many interesting things. And what's really personal is, how do you, in your mind, combine what's happening with technology and what's happening in art and what's happening with biology and this and that. And all of a sudden, you start to get new ideas and new views of the world. But yeah, instead of scrolling on Instagram and stuff, I know it's infectious. Spend that time better. There's so many good things to learn.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tanya. I have one last question, and this is about insights. So what techniques and tools do you use to gather insights?
To be honest with you, we're super simple. We try to record, audio record or video record our interviews, because very often it's too much and you want to come back and rehear it. and then we transcribe it, or we just put it in Figma as individual post-its. Remember, one idea per post-it, very important, or one statement of a customer or future user per post-it, because then it allows you to mix and match them and pattern them and group them. Yeah, it's really not about technology. Of course, we also use AI now. Why not? If it can help you with research, or if it can help you synthesize a lot of material, and you just don't use it as a final thing. You use it as to compare with what you thought, and then just speed up the process. I also wanted to say, because I see a question about reshaping career. The first 20 years of my career, everything that I did after I was an architect, I learned on my own. I was not trained for product management. I was just really lucky. It needs desire, and it needs luck. It needs desire and fearlessness to say, I can do other things in life, but it also needs a little bit of luck to find people who believe that you can do and to give you the chance.
That's amazing.
So the problem with the Autodesk video, I see, can you share with us the video? I actually am not really allowed to share that video at all. And but I did show it on one talk that is online. So I can send Jessica a couple of references that I think might be useful for you. And please share them then with them. Many of my talks are online, so you can see. What's really interesting to just start thinking about is convergence of multiple trends, convergence of things, not just one or the other. And that is what majority of my talks were. Fernanda is asking which castle is behind me. Okay, so I'm actually in a ski place, and this is a house of friends of ours. The friend actually invented the first 3D printed prosthetics.
Oh, wow.
And this is not Harry Potter castle from Lego. So what else? Anyway,
that's amazing, Tanya. So
yeah, I hope I answered some of the questions. Sometimes it's really difficult to answer specifically because I don't know where to start from in the time. But do connect. I love that you spend this hour with me, and I hope it was useful or inspirational. And I can say that having seen what Colectivo does, this is not a marketing for Colectivo, but they really teach the IDEO way of doing things really well. I could see that from the work of previous cohorts. So if you have time, do it. Go and learn some new things.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Tanya. Ahora les pido a todos que vayan prendiendo sus cámaras para una foto final con Tanya y haciendo eco a lo que Tanya estaba conversando. También por aquí voy a mostrarles rapidito este slideshow que tengo aquí, en donde van a poder escanearlo y van a poder conversar directamente con una persona, un asesor educativo que los va a poder guiar dentro de lo que deseen estudiar, si tienen alguna pregunta, alguna duda, si les gustaría consultar acerca de los programas que tenemos aquí en Colectivo y sobre todo los programas que tenemos con IDEO. También les vamos a pasar este slide dentro del chat para que lo puedan ver. Entonces, si es que todos ya están listos, si es que tienen como que sus camaritas